How do you make the transition from living on land to living on water? In this episode of Soul Searcher, we're going to show you how we did it. Greetings and welcome to Soul Searcher. We're your hosts, Bob and Dee, a retired couple from Tampa, Florida, who have left home to explore the world on our motor catamaran, Soul Searcher. Bob and I love being on the water and we love traveling. So when we found out a brand new long-distance cruiser was available at the Sydney Boat Show, we made a crazy decision and hopped on a plane and went to Australia. It was love at first sight. All we had to do was devise a plan to make it our own and find the right captain and first mate. Fast forward, and here we are on Australia's Great Barrier Reef. We went for it, and here we are. We have a lot of stuff to figure out. We're going to talk about the realities of being a brand new cruiser. Issues like nerves, anxiety, fears, deconditioning, reality versus perception, routines, sleep, internet, communication, family, friends, control, nutrition, culture, healthcare, shopping. All these things have come into play at one time or another along our journey. So let's jump right in and start with the elephant in the room. Notably, me. What do I mean by that? Well, right away, I was confronted by a fear I didn't see coming. And it has to do with those two nasty little things, deconditioning and aging. This footage was shot at our first trip out to Bait Reef in the Great Barrier Reef, where Bob and our friend Chuck used the Brownie to dive for the first time in our voyage. But I wasn't there. Now, I'm a sailor, so what's the big deal? Like, I'm on the water all the time. And I've been working out. My trainer, Tasha, is amazing, and she's helped me get stronger and more confident. But all of a sudden, the game changed. I mean, this was a big ocean. We looked around and there was nothing in sight. We're out on this reef. We're moored in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody around except for a few other boats. I was never a really comfortable diver, and that was 30 years ago, so I was a lot younger. But hey, age is just a concept, right? I mean, it doesn't really affect us. After all, my lifeguard husband, Bob, took to diving like a fish, even though he'd only done a couple of recreational dives. Me? Yeah, not so much. We had to devise a plan to help me acclimate to the sea a little bit at a time. We figured I'd start out with snorkeling and then move on to the underwater hookah unit we bought so we could dive without carrying dive tanks and a compressor. This is the Brownies unit, and it's awesome. I'll talk about it more and go into detail on what it is in a little bit. Let's just suffice it to say that I was a little disgusted with myself in that we were pursuing our dreams, and here I was, right in the perfect place to do the perfect thing, something I'd always wanted to do, dive on the Great Barrier Reef, and I couldn't make myself do it. Luckily, this wasn't going to be our only trip out there, so I took a little comfort in the fact that we had a plan, and I was going to see the Great Barrier Reef. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to miss this. That's where we are. Whitehaven Bay, we're in about 8 meters of water. Well, we're starting our hike. We are going to the high peak and the lookout area to look at Whitehaven Beach, which is the jewel of the Whitsundays. It's super hot and buggy as all get out, but we're raring to go. It's a nice mild grade up to the top. Our expedition leader says 73 steps. And here we are at the summit overlooking Whitehaven Beach, and we are gonna put the drone up, are we not, Bobster? And get some amazing footage.
Maybe.
We found that adapting to boat life requires planning and follow through to make sure all our health needs are met. For example, I forgot to bring a prescription along one time, which caused a major problem. So we ended up having to have it shipped over from the United States. That took about a week's worth of time and an extra $100 or so. So, take home lesson learned. We've also worked through jet lag. We've found that sleeping on the plane, not drinking any alcohol, and getting on the new time immediately all help us to deal with jet lag quickly. If you live on your boat full time, that's great. As far as sleep goes, I think establishing a regular bedtime right away kind of goes with jet lag. We get up early usually, we go to bed early. We kind of run with the sun. I never thought I'd do that after I retired, but what can you say? You just become a creature of habit, and sleeping right is a very important thing to help us feel better. And as far as general health goes, it's really been hard for me to establish a routine exercise. So we try to stay as busy as we can doing activities like kayaking, swimming, walking, hiking. But I'll admit, I'm still not great at this. I have weights and stuff to work out on the boat. I just don't do it as much as I should. Medications and vitamins, it's just about staying organized. Planning ahead, stocking up, keeping track of what you have on the boat, what you have at home, what you need, and never, never, never running out. Also, you have to realize that the rules are different in different countries. So what flies in the United States might not fly in Australia, New Zealand, or other places. It's always a good idea to check and see what's legal and what's not. How fulfilled would you be if you were having all these great travels, but you couldn't keep in touch with family or friends back home? Not to mention all the business stuff that needs taken care of when you're away. I don't really think it'd be any better for anyone else than it was for us. We had troubles and woes with communication. In modern life, we all have to connect to pay bills, take care of business, do some shopping, keep up with social media, scheduling, and stay in touch with family and friends. Because cell towers were so rare, we ended up with Starlink, which we absolutely fell in love with. I would 100% recommend it. And it's essential for offshore traveling. Next, we motored over to a quiet place where we could get a little bit more conditioning, see the sights, and start with plan step number 2, training. Well, we're going out today to this nice little beach, and we're going to take the Brownies diving equipment out and see if we can get Dolores comfortable with diving again. It could be a drama. You're not going to believe how cool this thing is. Instead of carrying dive tanks full of compressed air, you just have a regulator, a long hose, and then the unit sits on a little float on top of the water and gives you an on-demand supply of air. It's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, so you're not carrying fuel. It's variable speed, so it only works when you need it. It's on demand, and it can support 2 divers. It's also got a cool dive flag and float, so you feel totally legit. And it's great for safety.
Dee is going out for her first diving lessons with Captain Art. They're heading into shore to try and sit in the water with the snorkel gear on, or I should say the hookah gear.
That little breathing apparatus is like your umbilical cord, and it took me a few minutes, but I got used to sitting under the water and learning to breathe. How many times have you been on a trip and you found the perfect place or activity, but you couldn't go back because you were on someone else's agenda? The nicest thing about being on a boat is being able to make your own agenda. as long as it goes along with the weather. The area called the Stepping Stones was probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. That's why we kept coming back to Bait Reef. It was the perfect diving spot. It was protected by the reef, yet in deep water, and it just had gorgeous coral formations and beautiful fish. Here Bob's going to do a little bit of a snorkel to test out his mask. He had a little bleeding into the whites of his eyes because his mask created too much suction. Again, healthcare. I guess it does help when your wife is a doctor, though. All along the way, we've been talking about the reality of our experience and what our preconceived notions were. We've learned to manage a little seasickness, although as sailors, we had never experienced it at all before. But the reality of diving and snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef was better than I perceived it ever could be. It's a special place. One of the realities we never want to experience is an emergency at sea. So Art, Cindy, and I all took a week-long intensive called Safety at Sea. It was a refresher for them, so more important for me. Fire is the biggest risk, and I never in my life thought I'd be fighting fires, but I have. And now I have so much more respect for both fire safety, and fire safety professionals. And I know you've heard it a million times, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that's why Art and Cindy are so meticulous about taking care of the boat, from checking the generator, the engines, to just keeping it clean and polished and making sure everything is shipshape. We all have the responsibility of looking out for each other on land and at sea. Kind of a good take-home message, really. Shopping for food and supplies is never the same overseas as it is at home, wherever home was. Key, flexibility. Be flexible. Art, I'm so impressed that you're in the same decade of life as me, and you can get down on your knees like that. I won't video that. Bob actually wanted to walk up to the Pokestop, and he said there's such a mismatch between the height of the sugar scoop and the height of the deck that he didn't want to look like a klutz trying to get off the boat. He's like, I should have watched how Cindy did it. Well, anyway, this is the first time on our trip in the Sundays that we've actually fueled. And I think that speaks to the efficiency of Soul Searcher, especially considering the fact that it's been quite warm and that for at least half the time that we've been out here, we've used our air conditioning and the generator. The generator is so frugal and cost effective that we almost don't even feel guilty anymore. Anyway, fuel. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a rare thing, but it's a thing. So, oh my gosh, so much to see, so much to do, and so much to learn. I think so far in our first big trip to the Great Barrier Reef on our new boat, Soul Searcher, we have learned some amazing things. We know that we have some shortcomings and things to do in the future. I hope that you'll continue our journey with us as we grow and go on into the future with our beautiful, beautiful Iliad 62 Soul Searcher. If you're looking at getting into cruising, I hope your takeaway is that if we can do it, you can do it. Oh, and that shark I promised you, here he comes. You gotta look for him, but here he comes.
Deep in this body of water, there's a tide taking me on a ride. I'm coming alive. Coming alive. I'm on a journey. I've set my sights out to the open road. This is survival out in the wild. My greatest teacher, she lives inside. Coming alive out to the sunsets. Maybe I'll find love. I can't stop dreaming. It's so close that I can touch.